this. So one of the things that we identified as a gap was the fact that there was no sort of overarching strategy to guide all those who are interested in issues of sustainable food systems and agroecology. And we put this across to the Ministry of Agriculture, who are also our secretariat. And together we agreed that we needed to develop a national agroecology strategy for food systems transformation. And so we started the process around 2020, and eventually in November last year, 2024, we managed to officially launch the National Agroecology Strategy. How many of you have seen a copy of this strategy? Okay, just a few. Bonagitai has one. Can you show it? Sorry, I left my... Yeah, that is the document that we launched in November last year. Thank you very much. And in terms of the implementation of that strategy, ISFA is playing a key role in terms of being the secretariat for the implementation. And in that strategy also there is, like in any other strategy, an M&E framework that needs to be developed with the objective of tracking progress and the effectiveness of the strategy. So we held discussions with some of our partners, CIFOR-ICRAF, the Ministry of Agriculture, and other partners who are interested in supporting this process. And in January of 2025, this year, we organized a workshop to just think through how we're going to develop this M&E framework. And at the end of that 2-day workshop, we also agreed on a roadmap, which one included the establishment of a task force to be able to drive this process. I can report that we're in the process of developing, setting up that task force, which is supposed to guide the process of developing this M&E framework. Hopefully, we should be able to have that task force operational by the end of August, so that we're able to develop this M&E framework. I think all of you understand the importance of having an M&E framework. Once you have a strategy, a lot of times we tend to think that is the end, that somehow the implementation of what's in the strategy will happen sort of organically. But I think from my experience, there are certain things that needs to be put in place. You need to have indicators that are measurable. You need to have, stakeholders, institutions that are driving these processes. You need to harmonize these indicators and so on, have dashboards and all these kind of things. And we think for us to be different, because agroecology tries to change things, do things differently. And I think that also behoves us, that even in terms of implementation, monitoring progress, effectiveness, efficiency, and so on, we have to be deliberate and intentional in how we do things. So I'm very happy that CIFOR-ICRAF has organized this side event, where we will be able to, get into a little bit more details about the observatory and the M&E framework that we hope to have established, because that gives us a tool to be able to track progress and make changes as we implement the National Agroecology Strategy. So thank you very much, and I hope you have very fruitful deliberations this afternoon.
So thank you so much, Martin. Allow me now to welcome Professor Awiti.
Well, this is a tricky mind game. a mic that doesn't work, but helps to focus the speaker. So thank you very much, Martin, for setting the context. And thank you, colleagues. We are really grateful that you've made time to come and participate in this session. And this is going to be different because we're not going to put you to sleep listening to many boring speeches. We're actually going to put you to work. So the lunch has to be earned. Yeah? So as Martin has said, last year we had the great privilege to witness the launch of the National Agroecology Strategy for Food Systems Transformation. And the overall goal of that strategy is really consistent with a lot of international aspirations around food systems transformation. For instance, the CFS policy recommendations, for example, that came out of the high-level panel of experts that created the seminal document that now drives a lot of the vision and thinking around agroecology. And when Martin asked whether some of us had seen the strategy, there was not a lot of hands going up. So I'll just list the 5 strategic objectives of the strategy, because that's very critical to this discussion. And it's also very critical to what strategy as an example of how much work we have to do to create resonance between the national aspirations and the county priorities, especially given the very fact that agriculture has devolved. So there will be no top-down kind of engagement with the counties. We have to figure out where the counties are. Muranga also has a policy, so we need to start thinking about how this is going to dovetail. And then KNBS is also saying that for this to make sense, to appear in national reporting, like the economic survey, for example, it has to have resonance with the national statistical system. So this is what we have to do, and it speaks to what Martin was referring to. How do you create a system that can hold us all accountable? Create a basis for monitoring, for learning, and for cross-learning as well, especially across the counties. So the first strategic objective of the National Agroecology Strategy is to foster transition to resilient, sustainable agriculture and food systems through agroecological approaches. So it foregrounds exactly what we want to do and how we want to do it through agroecological approaches. And then promote sustainable consumption to facilitate transition towards healthy, sustainable diets. So you might ask the question, why agroecological approaches? Then the answer is to promote sustainable consumption, because you're going to make food that is healthy, food that is produced absent chemicals that will not harm our health. And how are we going to do that? By creating an enabling environment and incentives and scaling up agroecology. And to support that, it has to be evidence-based. So we're going to strengthen the research and innovation and training and foster co-creation and co-learning. That means that the communities have to be a part of this. So you can see how logically we imagined these strategic objectives. We just didn't pick them without creating a logical sequence in the way that they're conceived. And then eventually, that underpins all of this is an aspiration to create and engender social equity and inclusion in our society through participatory governance in the food system. So our societies and our communities must own the food system. And it speaks to some of the discussions we had in plenary today about our cultures and our food and our traditions. So this is what we are trying to do. And as Martin has said, that a lot of what we are trying to do is also to enhance the scale up and the adoption of agroecology across the country. Now, what the M&E framework is going to help us do is to ensure systematic learning, targeted investments, and evidence-informed decision-making. Because you can't just guess this stuff. You know, you just can't show up one day and you want to do something, but there's no evidence base that helps you to arrive at that understanding. And as I've said, that we also want to ensure integration. And I'm glad that Josephine is here. I've mentioned the National Statistical Framework system via the National Bureau of Statistics, for example, and aligning to commitments of the SDGs, for example, and also the CADAP reporting targets, and linking these back to SDGs. Because at the very core of it, agroecology is a sustainable development value proposition. When you start from enabling and energizing production systems around food, no, around soils, biodiversity and ecosystem services. That starts to drive a very strong foundation for rural economic growth, because agriculture is the base of this society. So unless you build our society from the bottom up by first making agriculture work, there is no durable progress you can have. You cannot make poverty history in this country if you don't deal with that fundamental critical starting step. And then building resilience through a hostile and changing climate, and then engendering social equity in that process through shared prosperity. So in what we are trying to suggest for the national monitoring and evaluation framework for the agroecology strategy, we want to do 5 things. The first one is to develop an institutionalized and nationally harmonized but locally adaptable M&E. So we are very clear that the national government does not have the last word on this discussion. It is the counties. So how do you develop something that simultaneously works for us to report on the national obligations through things like the NDCs, for example, and CADAP, and also make sure that the counties see themselves and their agency and leadership in that process? If we don't aspirations for their societies, because the governors are accountable to the electorate. So that's why, as we institutionalize, a national system must create a pathway for harmonization and an opportunity for local adaptation. And if you look at the Vihiga strategy, for their first point, the most important thing in their objectives is production and soil health. So we need to find resonance with this in the national agroecology strategy to create indicators that would work for Vihiga as well. So that when Vihiga reports, we are reporting at the national government as well on those soil health outcomes. And that's why when you look at the framing of the strategic objectives of the NAS, they are sufficiently broad to be accommodating of all of these aspirations. Now, the next one for Vihiga is around food and nutrition. I'm being given instructions.
And just here, two quick reactions. Chair, Treasurer. You can share what you have before we continue.
Yes, thank you. My name is Maina Wambugu. And one of the things that I think should be done is that if you look at the members of the county assemblies who are key in making policy, making decisions about the county, should equally be made aware, either in terms of training or creating awareness about the same, so that they too, when they are making these legislations within the county, then they are making that from informed choices and decisions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's have another quick reaction. Then come back to
The partners and other stakeholders should actually share reports and compare performance indexes inter-counties. Yes, exactly.
My name is Jane. I work for Neighbors Initiative Alliance. I was thinking of forming community of practice representative from different counties where they can share best practices which can be replicated in the other counties that are not doing very well in terms of policies. Yes. Yes.
Just on the same point, it seems like there are counties that don't have these forums or platforms where stakeholders comes together and then they share some of these technologies that are working. I'm at stakeholder platform. So in that platform, people can share, and then people are now able to understand whatever is going on. Then I also thought about peer learning, that if counties that has similar challenges or goals also can facilitate peer knowledge by sharing. But this can only happen if then the counties are mapped up, and each and every county understands their problems and challenges, so that they can see how the other county dealt with their challenges. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Nicholas from the NRC. My quick one was also we have to think of the funds for exchange. Yes, for them to, there shouldn't be resources for the exchange. And also already there are existing blocks, because those blocks, they call it economical blocks, they have the same problems. They have already there and they will be sharing. I think that's another forum we need to utilize. The economic, yes, the economic blocks, because they have the same problems, so they can be sharing all that. Thank you.
Mzungu huko Mombasa Collins. He's from Kilifi Taita. Tungependa kuwasikia pia.
They can also leverage on the learning tools, like the Google Docs. Yeah. Yeah. Also, they can use a standard agenda template. The template in which all the counties, the agendas which they'll be discussing, they should all be uniform, so that they'll be delivering on the same objective. Yeah.
Actually, what was shared earlier on is what I was thinking of. You know, the aspect of multi-sectoral stakeholder platform is very, very important, because if it is left to a given caliber, then at the end of the day, others will not be able to learn. But I think it's equally important that the sharing platforms should be of the various levels. It could be on the social media, there could be the ordinary meetings and workshops for the same.
Exhausted the we have exhausted what I particularly I will have said some one or two. Maybe to add about scaling up. There is also scaling out and also scaling deep, and they are different. Out, deep, out. Yeah, scaling up is increasing, particularly through the institutions, growing up through the institutions. Scaling out is a horizontal, the regional level, going out through counties, through the region. And scaling deep is you, the person, the attitude, the minds, the knowledge within the communities to accept that and be part of the process to change at the individual level. That is deep.
I see three. I hope you have listed them down there, because we still have 3 more questions to go. Please, that point that you had, yes, that points that you had, put them down in that paper, and she'll put them together, please. Yeah, don't lose it, tafadhali. Hope I'm... Yes, 1 for 1 question. So, yeah, we want to collect these ones, but in case another point comes, please, you can put in another one and just note this question on the whole. Or for you, yeah, it's okay, you'll be making the presentation. You can be collecting, yeah? Anyone without? So, we go to question number 2. Yeah, yeah. Let's go to question number 2. Yeah, there's still more cards you can pick. Yeah, you can pick some. Pick 3. Pick 3. Yeah, have 3 cards. Those behind you don't have. Let's look at question number 2. Codes ziko hapa. Let's have a look at question number 2 together. How can data from the National Agroecology Strategy Framework, can be practically be utilized to identify policy and institutional gaps, guide learning, and support corrective actions towards agroecological transition. So at this point, we are looking at the data that will be from the National Agroecology Strategy Framework. Okay? So we are still in the process of finalizing the National Agroecology Strategy Framework. Remember, we already have the strategy, right? And so we want to understand how can data that will be from or generated out of the National Agroecology Strategy Framework be utilized to identify the policy and institutional gap, guide learning, and support corrective actions that will accelerate the agroecological transitions. Do you want to add? Is the question clear? Not yet, Emma. So, yes? You can just expound on that question.
The second question, eh? All right, so the National Monitoring and Evaluation Framework, the development of a national database, okay? National data management system where all county data related to agroecological transition will be fed. And it will have a dashboard for displaying real-time information on the level of agroecological transition at a national and at a county level. So you can also query, make your changes and query maybe for your county or based on gender or whatever it is. Okay? And finally, what has not been mentioned? I think, how many have heard of TEP? Tool for Agroecological Performance Evaluation. Yes. So TEP National, it will be one of the 4 countries globally to have tested TEP National, having integrated it with the national M&D framework. So we will have all the data related to agroecology and agroecological performance, both nationally and at county level. So after we have this data, what next? Okay? What next? How can we be able to utilize this information meaningfully to trigger actual actions on the ground? How can farmers tap into that information to inform their decision making? What are the key considerations that we should take into note? The people who will be developing all these dashboards, what should they take into consideration so that the information that will be generated will be useful to the target audience? Okay? Yes, so that is the question. So as a potential user, how would you like it to be helpful to you? And how would the developers ensure that its usefulness for you is met? So that is the question. Not yet, huh? Not yet. It is. Okay.
Please take a minute and put down your ideas, your suggestions. Just put them down in a minute. Just take a minute and reflect through and write down. Is a minute over? 1 minute measure? Yes? Okay. Yes. It's okay. Sorry.
So I've understood data has been collected, maybe data from success stories has been collected and best practices have been identified and it has been published somewhere. So now maybe they should look for a way of the farmers accessing that data and the way it can be disseminated to farmers, probably through, we don't have extension officers in agroecology, maybe training institutions or something like that.
Okay, I was thinking of simplification of that data to be citizen friendly to the farmers to understand it, not like having complicated data. So the data can be simplified so that the utilizer whom we are looking at, the local farmers, are able to understand it. Yeah.
I think once we are having this data, it will be very useful for making policy decisions based on the data that has been researched. Then I was also looking at the capacity building aspect, where we are having a lot of the principles. So once we are having data, we'll realize and we'll have information of what now the farmer wants and what the farmer can do, so that we structure our capacity building programs to what is benefiting the farmer directly.
I think mine is aligned to what he has just said, because the data is actually key in establishing the training needs. Those are the gaps to enhance capacity building among all stakeholders.
Yeah, just to build on what you said, there is what we call, you can carry out a needs assessment to the farmers based on the data that you collected. And also something else, that the data that you input into the system, they should be up to date, so that, the end user who is benefiting on that data is, what I'm looking at is something that is happening, not 10 years ago or 5 years ago, based on the ecological changes in the environment. Yeah.
Okay, considering there's so many researches which have been done, there are some researchers who has given us good recommendation. I think from there we can have practical actions. We can have practical actions concerning the recommendation which have been done by researchers, because when they are doing research, they are aiming at solving a certain problem. So having a practical action point from those research which has been done is going to be okay. Another thing is we encourage use of AI, and the information should be based in different agroecological zones. For example, when you are using an app, you get a response which is general. A farmer who is in Northeastern cannot be able to use that response. So when we are using that data, especially when you're using AI, the information which is there should be able to reach the target farmer.
I don't know whether I'll be repeating what they have said, but I thought once this data has been captured, it is important for organizations involved to get what we call community animators. These community animators will play a crucial role in simplifying this data to the local communities. And in the same process, I think they'll also be critical in using demonstrations, because data might not really be physically identifiable. But I think when we use demonstrations, farmers will actually grasp the ideas or what we mean in an easy way.
Let's give back the papers, the one that you have written, please, as we look at the question. Yes? Yeah, we are going to include it in the report. You wanted to read it out?
So that if it's not okay, you can also let me know. We have some counties which are establishing these farmer service centers. So we were thinking if they could be digitized. They are digitized to enable them work through AI and all what has been mentioned, and also through agroecology volunteers, like the community health workers, so that we have agroecology volunteers working alongside those and properly equipped with the digital apps.
Okay, thank you very much, Chumba. That was quite key. Kindly help me with the written ones as we look at the question number 3. The written ones, please. Yeah. We move to the question number 3. All of us, we have been engaging stakeholders in one way or the other. In our organizations, we engage stakeholders, which is very key to ensure that there is that collaboration within the county level, within our work. And so the next question that Mzungu Ngoma we want to check. Okay, on blue one. Sorry. We change. You can circulate. This question you are going to put the answers on the blue cards. And we want to have a look on which are the best way to engage key stakeholders. This includes the civil society organization, the research institutions, the academias. We also have the development partners. We have national and county actors. How do we engage them to enhance ownership, accountability, and long-term sustainability? So we want to ensure, yes, we'll be writing down as we move on. Please write it down. I just want to ensure that everyone understands the question. So we want to come up with the best ways that we can engage the stakeholders, the different stakeholders, both at the national level and at the county level. So we are looking at the stakeholders within the counties, the stakeholders at the national level. This can be civil society, development partners, academia, research institution, farmers, all stakeholders that are there. And we want to come up with best strategies that will support in enhancing the ownership. Remember, we are referring to the National Agroecology Strategy that is going to be domesticated at the county level, or should be domesticated by the county level. And we also want to enhance accountability. If, for example, it is your institution that is supposed to report on a particular thing, how can we enhance accountability in that sector to your institution, that they know it is their responsibility? And also enhance long-term sustainability. I believe now it is very clear. Please put down your answers. We're not going to take quite a long time on that because I believe that one is a straightforward one. How best can we enhance or engage stakeholders to enhance accountability, to enhance sustainability, and also to ensure that there is ownership, yes, of the process. Please put your answer down, but meanwhile, we had someone who was very ready to share this. Yeah, I saw you.
Okay, I think the most effective way is since we are working with farmers at local level, it's good for them to join and work in what we call social groups. Yeah, that's the only way we can effectively engage with the donors, stakeholders, and the other assistance groups. Also, it is important for them to be officially registered so that the stakeholders can also get an opportunity to look at their documents, what they are doing, to enhance possibly sponsorship and other categories of engagement.
Yes, I think first of all, there's an issue of mapping up allies and adversaries to know whom you are going to reach out to and whom you'll like to avoid.
Just to build on what he said, there is what we call a stakeholder analysis. Yeah, stakeholder analysis. And there is what is called power stroke interest matrix. So you identify high power, high interest. Who are these? These are basically most of them are government officials. But you can find a group like farmers with low power but high interest. So once you do a stakeholder analysis, you know who best to engage.
Then my addition is once you have your grid, then you need to involve all these stakeholders from the beginning at planning and up to the execution level so that they are also part of it and come up with the sustainability strategies. Yeah.
For that one to work, then we need to organize the multi-stakeholder forums through strategic leaderships within the local counties. We do strategic leadership tiers to encourage ownership.
In addition to that, we can also do also memorandum of understanding so that we can maintain long-term sustainability.
Maybe another thing, when you are dealing with farmers, one thing you can train them, then you support the innovation they have, and also you get the feedback, what they are giving you in terms of what you have given out.
To add on feedback, should also define on the communication and feedback mechanisms. How will they be communicating? How will they be giving their feedback?
Actually, mine now will be an addition to what she has said on communication, use of participatory methods so that they become co-creators of what we're giving, not just recipients of the information. So, yeah.
For maybe the donors. I think it's a critical issue of transparency and accountability. Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to emphasize on what Madam there said about participatory and these MOUs, PPPs, but they have to be from the right from the beginning, and it has to be inclusive. We maintain inclusivity so that we don't involve somebody when it's about the end. We start with everybody at the beginning, everybody. Whoever is not there, we delay their entry. And when they don't come after you have started, you don't allow, because they will come now and derail. So participatory, but from the beginning to the end. That's what we have observed from partnerships.
Chumba, you have been very silent. Yes. We'll move to question number 4. Please give back the blue papers, blue or green. So we use a different color now? Okay. Okay. You're doing well. So we are at the last question. Question number 4. And we want to look at effective methods for documentation and sharing information. And anyone without a card? They are here? Yeah? The green one still. Yes, here. Sansana. So we want to look at effective methods, effective ways in which we can do documentation and information sharing in a way that we meet the needs of the stakeholders that we are engaging here in number 3. So we have already understood our stakeholders, we have mapped, we have analyzed our stakeholders. Now we want to come up with ways in which we can share information. How do we ensure that first we document the information, we document the best practices, we document the information, we document the researches to ensure that it's well disseminated to the stakeholders that we are engaging. So we want to identify those effective methods that can be used, 1, to document, and 2, to disseminate the information in a way that the stakeholders need. Remember, we also mentioned about needs analysis, assessment, and the like, such that we meet the needs of those stakeholders. Which are the effective methods? Which methods can we use to ensure that we have documented the information, the practices, the researches, and all the innovations and the like, and we have disseminated to the stakeholders, and at the same time addressing the needs of those stakeholders?
Which are the best ways for providing information in a suitable manner that would inform their decision making? What about policy makers? What about researchers? Do you have some suitable ways that needs to be considered in disseminating these documentations? Yeah.
Okay. As for me,
You write down think of how we can document and disseminate to farmers, how can we reach the policy makers, and also the extension service providers. Any other key categories? Hope you'll be prioritizing them in the stakeholder analysis and engagement, meaningful one. Anyway, Chumba, you have the mic. You can start off.
yeah,
Okay, very fast. As you write down your points.
yeah. Sometimes back, Madam, you remember we used to have these community libraries. The National Library Services. They somewhere they disappeared. Yeah, I wanted to suggest that somehow we could revive them, but we say village libraries, but these are now digital to take care of the libraries. But now with as much digital technology as possible to take care of the new generation of data consumers and data collectors, and also to train them and value the indigenous technical knowledge. You convert them into modern technology for preservation, because our IT case have disappeared or are disappearing very, very fast, especially in agroecology. Indigenous technical knowledge. So if we can revive this village or community libraries, and they are supported, even if they are digital libraries, no problem. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. A second each.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm thinking like when we document, we use both all local, national, and international language, because our farmers in our villages, there are others who cannot, they don't understand English, but we document in their local dialects. I think that's a good point.
To the policymakers and maybe the external bodies, maybe we can use the newsletters to pass the information. And the policy briefs. Yeah, newsletters.
Yes, for the farmers, I was thinking we can do exhibitions and having demo farms to demonstrate, and then we can leverage on social media platforms for the youths, and also text messages for farmers because they don't have access to internet mostly, but they have phones.
Okay, I'm adding on what she has said on farmers. Maybe you can have regular radio programs in every native language. Community radios, yes.
This one just cuts across use of precise and simple language. You can if the Daktari can tell us of their policy. It's how many pages? With the Viga one, less than 30 pages, and it's straight to the point.
I think mine is very simple, where you organize workshops and the policymakers get the hands-on experience, ask questions and get answers.
For farmers, translate information across languages and literacies, whereby you can use the local languages. Also, some information can be informed to them through storytelling. And also, you can organize the knowledge for easy access through Google Drive or OneDrive.
I was thinking about to encourage reporting and information sharing with other stakeholders. We define a mechanism of awarding the best people who are doing reporting frequently and update. Yeah. Yes. For other, to encourage others also to report and document whatever they are doing.
I think on the farmer, it's very, very important to make use of the ITK. And these are a variety. Like, say, for instance, in some communities, singing could help ensure that the message is, art and music, culture, visualization. It could be very helpful to help people to really remember the messages. Food festivals.
Burning one here. We can use public barazas.
She doesn't want to say it, but she said that squeezy these songs about mandamana, mandamana. So why can't you make music about it? Agroecology. That's just one. Now, like a real artist, you record songs about it.
generated a lot of information in a short time. So mbarikiwe sana. Yeah. No, you're not leaving. We will have to report back. So you here. We are reporting back now. So we have to, in case he misses any point or something, we contribute back. So just turn your chair. Okay. So, yes, bring back the papers then the papers here. Number 4. Please bring your number 4. Give me back your number 4. Oh. Who is our rapporteur? You can refer to the ratings in case you have missed something.
I just cross-check, yeah, my point and your point.
You can start from the question number 1.
So apparently we are the only people who finished in time. So I can see that groups are still active.
Oh? It comes out. Okay, so.
Really, 1, 2, check 1, 2.
Let us kindly wind up. We are going to have key highlights from each group. And we'll start with group 3 since they are done. Do we have Wanjiru Kamau? Wanjiru Kamau? Wanjiru Kamau? So thank you once again. Kindly let us settle. Let us settle down and start with group 3. We'll only give you 2 minutes. And you'll not give highlights. Huh? I think group 3 is done. And our... Yes, it's here. Okay. So we'll just be sharing key highlights. Key highlights. All right. Sure. So let us have group 3 rapporteur. Group 3 rapporteur, please come. Just come. They'll settle. Okay, we are beginning.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Yeah, we are giving a very, very brief highlights of our discussion. In group 3, we had a set of questions, and the first question was, how can cross-county learning forums be structured to encourage peer-to-peer mentoring, share best practices, and reflect on challenges, thereby strengthening county readiness for scaling up in the implementation of the NAS objectives? So very quickly, we looked at people like members of the county assemblies, whom we said they need to be informed. Thank you. I think we have the attention of everyone, yeah? So quickly, we were looking at this question. How can cross-county learning forums be structured to encourage peer-to-peer mentoring, share best practices, and reflect on challenges, thereby strengthening county readiness for scaling up the implementation of the NAS objectives? So very quickly, I'll just give key highlights of what we discussed. One, we said, the members of the county assembly need to be informed and encouraged to do cross-learning and cross-pollination of ideas across their counties, because there are counties that have similar challenges and similar opportunities. And them being leaders of the people, it gives them a better opportunity to not only learn and share, but also disseminate the same to their constituencies. Number 2, in that question, we talked about partners to share reports and experiences, because in doing this work, there's a lot of partner engagement and involvement, and there is a lot of learning and knowledge management, which again needs to be strengthened and encouraged across actors. Number 3, we said we need to set up communities of practice, and representatives from those COPs need to learn and move across counties to be able to share what they've learned and what they've generated in terms of new knowledge. Number 4, in that question, we talked about multi-stakeholder platforms to be strengthened where they are existing and to be formed where they're absent, because we are alive to the fact that there are counties in Kenya today who are yet to have some of those multi-stakeholder platforms. Then there's the whole question of peer-to-peer learning, which is based on shared opportunities and challenges, considering the geographical uniqueness and resource abundance or resource lack across the counties. We talked about resource mobilization to fund the exchanges, because the exchanges will be a bit impossible to realize unless there are resources to drive the process. And here we're talking about domestic resource mobilization, right from within and across our counties. Number 5, we had a point on utilization of the economic blocks. There are existing economic blocks that bring together a group of counties in Kenya today, and those economic blocks are already an organized structure that has some level of coherence and resource that we can tap to. Things like the Lake Region Economic Block, things like NOREB, and many others. Just very quickly, we need also to leverage on learning tools that are found online, because not all that is generated from the field will be adequate. And the second last point here is that we need to make use of standard agenda template. That since we are dealing with people from different counties who have different needs and who express themselves differently, it will be good to ensure that we have a standard agenda template that summarizes and makes the information that is coming from them a little bit more coherent in order to support the exchange. Then there was a whole point of scaling up, scaling out, and scaling deep. Someone in this room will be able to explain later what scaling deep means in this context. On question 2, the question was, how can data from the NAS framework practically utilized to identify policy and institutional gaps, guide learning, and support corrective action towards agroecological transitions? Our discussion raised these points. I'm just highlighting. One, we need to have dissemination of the data to the farmers, because unless this information reaches the farmer is ideally the end user. So unless the information reaches them, then the whole exercise will have been an exercise in futility. Then the second point under this question is that we need to simplify the data to make it user-friendly across board. That is, we need to package that data in such a manner that even if it is an academic elite handling it or a semi-literate farmer, both of them are able to make out what the data means and are able to make informed use of that particular data. Number 3, we said the data should inform policy decisions. Yes, data is a resource and it should be used, once generated in this case, should be able to make policy decisions that make us to move from one point to another. Point number 4, we said we need to structure farmer community building programs, capacity building programs using the data, and again, still use that data to further identify any training needs that the farmers may need as we continue with the transitions in agroecology. Number 4, we said there should be data quality assessment to avoid distortion and miscommunication, considering that this data is coming fast and furious from different sources. There's a likelihood that some of the data can have very serious mistakes. And if there's no data quality assessment, then that would be very, very tricky for us. Okay. So I just want to do like 1 or 2 points per question so that I give room for the other groups. So one other point that was unique here is that we need to employ AI to make optimal use of that data. Yes, the raw data that is coming up is important, it's good enough, but if it is subjected to AI tools, there'll be better and faster processing of that data, and we can then make good use of that data in a much shorter time. Leaving out the other points, we'll share them out later. Number 3, the question was, what are the best strategies to engage key stakeholders, such as CSOs, donors, farmer groups, and both county and national actors to enhance ownership, accountability, and long-term sustainability? So a few of the points that we came up with were that we need to have social groups, what you can call common interest groups, in which the key stakeholders are working. So that if it's a group of educationists, they're in their own group. If it's a group of farmers, they're in their own group. but these groups have a way of speaking to each other much later. Where possible, we need to initiate communication and feedback mechanism, just to ensure that if this data was holding some important information, then we are very sure that the information has reached the end user and the end user has been able to react to it. One more point, and I leave out the rest for this question, is we need to commit some of these stakeholders to some kind of memorandum of understanding so that we are able to get commitment out of them, so that we are able to have a way of forcing some responsibility on certain actors as we move forward. There are more points, but we shall share them later. The last question: what effective methods can be used to document and share information in ways that meet the needs of different stakeholders, different stakeholder categories? We have quite a number of points, but very quickly, suggestions were we can use the local languages, national language, and even the international language so that we can appeal to actors across board. Down there in the village, we can use mobile phone SMSs, exhibitions, and make use of the farmer field schools to disseminate some of this information. We can make use of newsletters, policy briefs, local FM radio stations, and so on and so forth, just to ensure that this information reaches the people who badly need it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and sorry for harassing you. Group 2 can come up front, but we'll only limit it to 3 recommendations, 3 key recommendations based on your discussions, okay? So group 2, rapporteur kindly. 3 only. Thank you.
You said 3 minutes, huh?
No.
3. Okay. Wow. So, for group 2, we were looking at the leveraging and integrating existing data systems. Question 1 was how should M&E framework be meaningfully integrated in the existing country data systems. We did not look at the how, but we were able to look at what are these existing data systems apart from the one which I mentioned. So we look at the KNBS, who are the custodian of the national data. We look at the CAD, the data which will be held by the, at that level at CAD. We have TAPE, which gives data at the global level. Then we'll have counties. Counties will develop their M&E. The M&E and the data on how they will be collecting the data. So there is something which was new, which was brought up by members, that there will be need for a baseline indicators, and also need to develop a baseline tool. Yes. So let me go to question 2, because of time. How should the NAS M&E indicators be designed to align the agroecological principles? So, 1, so the team proposed to be aligned in terms of principles, themes, and indicators. And under the principles, we looked at do we consider the broad indicators, or we consider the strategic objectives indicated in the National Agroecology Strategy, and the team adopted that. So we have the how the strategic objective, and also to take in consideration of the international themes, and also at county level, look at the county level indicators. I think that, yeah. The third question was looking at what should be the practical reporting frequency. So in terms of the frequency of reporting, so this was the analogy. At the CSO's level, or the non-stake actors, they were to report monthly, but they report to the national level. No, the CSOs will report to the counties monthly, and then counties to report quarterly, but to the national, the national level, and then the national level to report biannually, the regional level. So those are the frequencies which the group came up with. And lastly, the fourth question in terms of the key stakeholders.
So the key stakeholders here, we were guided that the key stakeholders here to be the task force. Now to form the task force to have a multi-stakeholder approach, having representation from farmers, non-stake actors, and also the state as guided, as will be guided. And mainly this mandate for this question 2, they will be mandated for, the task force will be mandated to align the question 2. Thank you. Maybe the team can add anything that I've missed.
Thank you so much, Anthony. He's really tried. So group 1. Group 1, if we can follow that format.
Yes. Group 1, my question. Good evening. Group 1 was handling the key consideration for localizing and operationalizing the NAS M&E framework. And we began with just some pace setting to find out what's happening in the counties. We heard from Murang'a, Busia, and we also heard about Vihiga and what they are doing. So some of the proposed, what we did, because of time challenges, we discussed some ideas, but most of our ideas, we put individual ideas in cards that will be consolidated. So some of the ideas that I picked from the group discussions is that, 1, we need to first, as a priority, organize sensitization platforms or meetings with counties to bring actors to understand the NAS, the national strategy in a harmonized way, so that we have an harmonized understanding of this strategy. Then there's also need to have a rich multi-stakeholder platform with different expertise and identify their needs. So we need to do some sort of mapping. And then we also need to tailor the current metrics and indicators with the needs of the community of practice. There are many more ideas, but I'm just picking a few. On group question 2, which was around what existing data platforms or M&E systems are already in use. It was a good learning session because we learned that there's already a system called Kiamis that agriculture data is reported on. We learned that this is a beta project. There's also one called CropsCats. It's a system that reports directly to Kenya National Bureau of Standards. But we also noted that currently M&E is generally weak at county level, perhaps because of audit issues, but has improved since devolution. There's also another system called iFood SOS that is driven by Gordon, and they're also national platforms. So there is need to sort of harmonize, this data collection and decide what systems that we are going to use, because there's also CADIP that is collecting EOA data, but this is not be fully implemented at the county level. So there's need to harmonize and decide, are we going to use existing platforms and improve them, or start of new systems. Question 3 looked at the national representative of data collection. How will it be achieved, and what criteria will we use to guide the selection of pilot counties, and what key considerations are essential? So one, we agreed that there's need to map out the stakeholders, the actors in EAE, to ensure inclusion as espoused in the national strategy. But importantly, we realized that there's a lot of collection of quantitative data, but we miss out on qualitative data that gives us the why of what is happening. So as we think about collecting quantitative data, let's not also lose out on the narratives that will explain why what is happening is happening. So that is important. In terms of mapping, what criteria do we use? We thought about several things. Issues around the economics, the zones, the economic zones or blocks. We also thought, issues around interest, issues around the ecological conditions of the places
that we are talking about, and also agroecological zones. And we should not forget, the ASAL areas. They tend to be forgotten. I remember it was an issue even when we were doing sensitization on the agroecology strategy, that areas that are ASAL need to be brought on board. But the important thing is that we must make sure that the 5 objectives of the national strategy, there are metrics collected around the 5 objectives of the national strategy. That's what we came up with for Group 1. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Wanjiro. Finally, allow me now to welcome Professor Awiti once again to give us a closing remark and way forward, what to expect. Yeah. 5 minutes,
Everybody wants to go home. So thank you very much for staying this late. I was roving around behind the groups to try and follow the discussion, and I think you were really truly engaged, and that's something that I would like to very sincerely thank you for doing, especially at this very late hour. In terms of next steps, you had the first group talk about the steering committee, the steering group that is going to help this process. So there'll be a lot of consultations. As you could see from your groups, this is not an easy conversation. It's going to be really complicated. Not complicated, but complex, because of the many stakeholders and many interests that we have to balance. We have to triangulate between and across different geographic, sectoral interests, some issues around what donors might be looking at, but thank God for Trump. Trump is not interested in meddling in Africa, so that's a good thing. So I think we have almost carte blanche to write our own destiny. But how do we make sure that the conversations are really engaged, that we bring in, I think especially, private sector? What would be some of those critical indicators that we can use to create an opportunity for private sector to make informed investment decisions, for example? That's going to be important for us. If you're looking at, say, the demand for organic resources, for example, why would the private sector person take that data seriously, and how would that inform deepening investments in providing high quality organic resources to support the food system? So we have a lot of work to do, and I think we've got what we need. So a lot of you will already in our network, in the conversation, and especially through ISFA, you're part of the PELAM network and many other groups that are gathered here. So we'll be coming back to you with how we move forward. We'll be engaging some of you in some of the processes that will be taking this process forward. So thank you very much, and have a lovely evening, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks.
Thank you so much. We register our appreciation sincerely unto you for taking time to be able to selflessly contribute towards this session. We believe that we have all your contacts, and as is always our norm, we will share a collated report based on today's session, okay? As well as the next steps. Thank you so much, and God bless you.